Welcome to Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. For the first time in 10 years, College Game Day makes its rightful return to Storrs, Connecticut, where once again the UConn Huskies are the top dog in the world of college hoops. Jonathan is there. 5 national championships for UConn, including last year's. Wild inside Gampel Pavilion. And then just 40 miles west on I-84 is where you will find us inside Studio E here in Bristol, Connecticut. Great to have you along with us for the next 30 minutes. We got a great show for you leading up to College Game Day. Harry Lyles Jr., I'm Sam Ravech. We will hear from Jay Bilas later on in the show as well. We will talk some bubble teams, but we got to start with the UConn Huskies. Now, the very first College Game Day show for hoops was actually at Gampel Pavilion in 2005. Now, Harry, since then, UConn has won 3 national championships.
Yes.
So too has North Carolina. But that is more than Duke. It's more than Kansas, Kentucky, anybody else that you would consider in the blue blood conversation. First, Harry, I got to ask you, is UConn supposed to be and should be in the blue blood conversation?
I think there's no question about it. In fact, I have yet to hear a good argument, and if you've got one in the YouTube chat, I'd love to hear it, why they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 total national championships, correct? I mean, what about the timeline of their national championships makes them not, and yet makes North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, whoever else, a blue blood instead? It just doesn't, the math don't math.
I completely agree with you on that. I'm sure they will talk about it on College Game Day. Speaking of College Game Day, let's go inside Gampel Pavilion with Connecticut's very own and the favorite resident of the Nutmeg State, Christine Williamson. Christine, over to you.
I cannot believe that you just said Connecticut's very own for me. I don't know if I'm necessarily still claiming that I'm a resident of this great Nutmeg State, but I will say it is absolutely lit here in Storrs. Never been here before. This is my first time, and I'm not at all disappointed. I feel like maybe this crowd might be the biggest that we've seen all season. Rightfully so, as you mentioned. This is the first place that College Game Day visited about 20 years ago. I get to talk to Jay about that and the fact that he had some hair when that was happening. I also got to talk to Alex Caravan. There was a sign out there that said Carabang, and we had some ice cream. Love that kid, really good kid. They like to make fun of me because every single week I say that whoever I talk to is my favorite player, but he might be my favorite player. A lot of things that I learned about him yesterday. His mom didn't want him to come to UConn because of the education when he went on his first official visit, but then he went again, and they were like, actually, we absolutely love him. What are you guys doing? He goes here. So obviously he ended up at UConn, so everything turned out fine, but it was a great time, guys. And I miss you guys. You're not that far from us. You should
Christine, we miss you too, but also yet this is another week where Christine has gone to somewhere to get food with somebody, and yet the morning of the Sugar Bowl, Christine no-showed our breakfast, man, with me, Harry Douglas, and Chris Cologne. Like, what's the deal?
Let me check the phone. Maybe we got something.
What do we got to do to dine with Christine?
I forget why I didn't show up.
Because you just didn't want to be
there. I forget why I didn't show up. I feel like I had to do something. No, I feel like I had to do something. Like I had to cut my hair or something like that. I had to get ready for the show.
You had to cut your hair.
I was getting ready for work. You guys were trying to have too much fun. Yeah.
Not buying it, Christine, but it's okay. We're looking forward to see. In fact, let me ask you this. What flavor ice cream are you?
That's a great question.
Okay, am I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I haven't thought about this. I'll say, okay, I'm going to tell you my favorite flavor of ice cream, which is so basic. It's vanilla bean. And I'll say I'm vanilla bean because I know you guys, don't boo me on my favorite ice cream. You guys, it's really good. It's a classic if you do it right. But also, you guys know this about me. My nickname is Beanie, so I feel like vanilla bean makes sense. Also, I don't know if you've had this, but... Okay, the thing is, I think they're talking about Husky Tracks, which is a flavor that Dairy Bar here, UConn Dairy Bar has. Yeah. But they don't know this about me. I hate peanut butter, and there's peanut butter in it, so I can't do that. But there is a black raspberry. That's Alex Caravan's favorite, so I had that yesterday as well. It was good.
Christine, thank you very much. I don't know why they're booing you. I mean, you are a resident of Connecticut, so...
Because I don't like peanut butter. It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
If that's the only thing, well, I'll have to have a talk with the UConn fans and just continue to boo Christine.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. We'll get it back to you in just a bit. Wow, a lot of boos.
Tough morning
crowd.
for Christine.
Oh my goodness, tough crowd up there. All right, let's check out today's magic moments covered by State Farm here. The UConn Huskies are looking to become the first repeat champions since Florida did so back in 06-07. Let's take a look at some of the key moments for the Huskies so far this year. Look, it hasn't been all a walk in the park, Lyles. I mean, it started back on December 1st, going into Fog Allen Fieldhouse, and UConn picked up their first loss of the season by 4.
Yeah, and if it feels like if they got a do-over in this one, you see here, they only used 7 players. They've got depth. You can beat Kansas with depth. So that one, not their best outing, but also a great one, as you see there with Hunter Dickinson in Kansas.
Right, and then they followed it up in some more friendly confines at Madison Square Garden. This was kind of the coming out party, I think, for Cam Spencer, the transfer from Rutgers.
Yep.
He had 23 points, 6 assists, 7 boards in this game. It was just the second time ever, actually, that UConn had beaten North Carolina, and this was just 4 days after the loss at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Just shows you how quickly they can flip a script.
How they could flip the script, and this was the game that made North Carolina flip their script because they went on that huge winning streak after this, and obviously now they look like they could be one of the number 2 seeds in the tournament.
Speaking of winning streaks, both Marquette and UConn came into this one with long winning streaks a week ago, and UConn quite literally ran Marquette off the floor.
They sure did. And you and I talked about this before the show. The box score of that game, if you have not seen it, I highly suggest you go look at it. That is the reason why I feel like this UConn team is the best in the country, because nobody else can have the distribution, whether it was shooting, rebounding, or assists, that this team had in that game.
But then hold on, UConn goes to Omaha, Nebraska, which has been their kryptonite over the last several years. They have never won at Omaha, or at Creighton, I should say, and they didn't win here. 85-66 was the final. Creighton shot the lights out, north of 50% from beyond the arc. UConn had beaten Creighton 62-48 on January 17th, and the Blue Jays scored 43 points in the first half of the second meeting.
There's just not a lot of college basketball games where if your opponent shoots over 50% that you're going to win. Like, just point blank period, right? Even if you are as efficient as UConn, and in UConn's style of play, it always seems like they're a few seconds ahead of their opponent at all times. There's nothing you can do about that.
We have a poll up in the YouTube chat. For those watching on YouTube, please interact with us on the show. We're going to try and get to some of these comments a little bit later, but we do have a poll, and the question is, UConn or the field in the 2024 NCAA tournament? Any thoughts on that? UConn or the field, if you're getting that today?
I would go UConn still. I would go UConn.
The odds are against you. I mean,
they are. I feel like their stretch of consistency is built more for March. And can you do it 6 games in a row? They did it last year. I would argue this team has looked better this year for the most part. And a stat that we had talked about before was their 3 losses.
Yep.
The teams had always shot over 50% from 3. If that's what it takes to beat them, like, I don't know that a team is going to do that against them once in March. But I'm sort of curious for you, because obviously this is a team that you follow very closely as well. Like, what have been the things with them that have given you pause as to perhaps why they couldn't?
Yeah, we were talking before the show. In the 3 losses, 2 of them were to Kansas and Creighton. Both of those teams have 7-footers on their rosters, Hunter Dickinson and Ryan Kalkbrenner. And that has caused Connecticut some problems when you are able to meet them with size, especially with Donovan Clingan. When he picks up 2 early fouls, that is trouble, because Samson Johnson, we know, is one of the more exciting players to watch. Every single basket is a dunk for him. He leads like the NCAA in 2-point field goal percentage. But if you're able to get Clingan in foul trouble and you make UConn a little bit more one-dimensional, at least it becomes like a 4-on-4 game. Yeah. And then you can try to piece it together. But to your point, Lyles, I think what makes UConn the most dangerous team in the country is just that they can hurt you in so many different ways, whether it's off the bounce, whether it's from beyond the arc, whether it's in the paint. Like, this is a team that has 5 players averaging over 10 points per game.
Yep.
But they also have 5 different players that can go off for 20 a night.
Yeah.
And they just, like, it was so rare to watch them against Creighton, where just none of them had that, especially except for Tristan Newton, who had a really good game. But, like, you need at least 2 or 3. Like, they can beat you with 2 or 3 players. That's how good they are.
And they have those breakout games. And give me right here. Look, let me tell you something. This is where most college basketball teams are operating. Okay, UConn is right here, and because they operate from right here, those peaks, that those being the outlier, or the thing that they can really throw out at you when you are not playing your best game and they are on theirs, is why I have more confidence in them than the rest of the field. Because again, I just feel like everybody's way too hot and cold. The YouTube chat has spoken, and the poll results will agree with you. 56% of the fans watching the show today say that UConn
is likely to repeat as national champions here this year. We mentioned that UConn can hurt you in a variety of different ways. Well, there are also a lot of teams that are hurting for wins here today. When you look at the slate as we are 3 weeks out from Selection Sunday, we'll talk about some bubble teams later on. Wake Forest and Duke, circle that one right there. I think Wake Forest was an underdog at home by 1 point. That may shift when lines open, but have not checked. And, of course, Villanova, UConn at night. North Carolina and Virginia. Looks like Virginia and Wake Forest are actually kind of trending in opposite directions right now. Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, you know, we kind of have talked about before how, hey, like, you know, is the ACC as down as people like to think it is? And, you know, Wake Forest and Virginia are proof that, hey, the middle of that conference is picked up. Right. And they're really starting to come into their own. So Christine got booed like crazy about her ice cream takes, but let's see how enjoyable it was to get ice cream with UConn's best shooter, Alex Karaban.
All right, Alex, so we've gotten our ice cream. You've decided to go with black raspberry, which you said is your favorite flavor of ice cream. Why?
I think it's just an underrated flavor. People just don't talk about black raspberry enough, so I want black raspberry to, you know, showcase it today.
Let's start with Coach Hurley. If you were to give him an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
Gotta go with the coffee espresso crunch that we have at the Dairy Barn right here. You see how intense he is. You see how passionate he is about basketball.
So what about Stefan?
Stefan Castle, I say he's a chocolate peanut butter swirl type of guy. I think just what he does offensively is the chocolate and then the blend with the peanut butter for the defense.
What about Donovan?
Donovan's a coffee ice cream. That's no debate about it. I think he's just always on go, and when you talk to him, he's always super energetic. You know, really everything that happens after you drink coffee.
Okay, what about Cam?
He's a mid-chip guy. I know we say that I'm the old person, but he's really the old person on the team.
After you guys won the championship last year, the one thing that you would have to do is make the freshman to sophomore jump. How would you assess your growth so far as a player?
I think there's many games I've made that jump, and then many games I haven't at all. So really, it's still a learning experience for me, but at the same time, I know I need to play my best basketball in March along with my teammates in order to repeat what we did last year.
Do you feel like you guys have what it takes to win another national championship?
Oh, definitely. I definitely think we do. I think our defense is getting so much better with Donovan coming back, and then with that mix of great defense and great offense, I think really a national championship is the standard for us here at UConn.
What do you think is sweeter, winning a national championship or this ice cream?
Gotta be this ice cream. Championship. National championship for sure.
All right, so this entire college basketball season has just been weird. I mean, let's talk straight here. With all the upsets every single night seemingly coming, the surprises, right? And that led us to thinking about a segment where we can talk about how things have just gone to the next level in February. So let's talk about some of the crazy things that we have seen already in this month of February, and it hasn't even finished yet, Lyles. And let's start with St. John's head coach Rick Pitino, who just absolutely lit up his players.
He sure did.
After their loss against Seton Hall on Sunday. He said things like, "We are so unathletic that we cannot guard anybody without fouling." There was a ton of mentions of lateral movement and how bad his team was there. What do you make of this whole thing?
Hey, man. Y'all are in bad shape if your coach is outwardly saying you're unathletic. Like, usually you keep that one for practice. And my other thing with this, too, is he mentioned it has been a lifetime experience for him. He's never been this unhappy.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Rick Pitino is 71 years, 4 months, and 20 days old.
Ooh.
He meant that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is truly a lifetime of knowing the game of basketball and being unhappy with your current circumstances. Apparently.
I didn't have, like, a huge problem with it. But I do think, like, outwardly coming out and saying it to the press, we've played sports. Like, we've all heard a coach rip us apart. My favorite thing about his quotes there was when he said, "We kind of lost this season with the way we recruited." That's like a golfer after a bad round saying, "Well, we hit a bad shot on 18 there. We sliced it right." And the caddy's sitting there like, "Yo, we didn't slice anything. You sliced it." Right. You know? Like, at the end of the day, Pitino's the one who's okaying these recruits coming in.
Yeah, he is. And it's just like, dude, he's been doing this for so long. And we see all the different flavors of Rick Pitino. This one's different.
It's a little spicy.
You know what I mean?
A little spicy.
Like it kind of makes you think, like, all right, bro, like, maybe you should have just gone home instead of taking, like, a new job, you know? Which, hope it works out for him. Not tripping, but makes you think.
A lot of people thought they would be better this year. It just hasn't gone their way. For what it's worth, he did apologize to his players afterwards, and they did snap a 3-game skid earlier this week. But along the same lines of coaches being animated, you would be hard-pressed to find one that's more animated in the entire game of college basketball than Dan Hurley. And that's Danny right there giving it to a Creighton fan. Apparently saying, I love the sound effects there. Apparently, Dan Hurley addressed a fan saying, "I will knock you out." Now, there was another angle to this video that we didn't get. I actually just saw it earlier this morning. Sorry, producer Shelby and Joe. I did see it earlier, and it looked like the Creighton fan was like actually about to come at Dan Hurley, and he was just like, "Hey, if you come at me, I may knock you out." Like,
listen, you can't say I'm going to knock you out and then not expect the other person to have some sort of reaction to that. Now, as it pertains to whether or not he could actually knock somebody out, on that video, look, man, I'm just saying, I don't know that he's got the wingspan to really get that reach. Because when I'm thinking knockout, bro, you got to extend.
Right.
I don't know that he's got that. Also, not condoning any sort of violence.
No violence.
I will say, in terms of fan interactions, we saw another one earlier this week with Kevin Durant and some unruly fans in Dallas. I think you would hope to see somebody handle it closer to that.
Right.
And just sort of be like, hey, you probably don't mean what you said. You should probably relax, as opposed to, I will knock you out.
I will knock you out. And then, of course, in today's day and age, we all go to social media, right?
Yep.
And that's where we go in and kind of address whatever's going on. And Dan Hurley, whoever's running his social media, I don't know if it's him or I don't know if it's Andrew Hurley, his son, or somebody, but he hit us with the Game of Thrones here, Lyles. What do you think about this?
Do we think he watches Game of Thrones?
That's a great question.
And if he did, you know what his favorite episode would be? Red Wedding. That's where the most havoc was.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, trust me. We'll talk about it after the show.
Okay, good deal. Also, to the February frenzy kind of theme here, it just seems like every week there's a team that just comes out of the woodwork to surprise us all, and that was LSU this week. They go and defeat South Carolina on the road on, I think this was Tuesday.
Yep.
It was a 1-point win, 64-63. Jacoby Wright had a really good game in this one. This was also, by the way, after South Carolina suffered a 40-point loss to Auburn a couple days prior. So LSU gets the win here. This wasn't like that crazy, but then you back it up with a win against Kentucky the next game.
Yeah.
LSU has been a team that at one point this season lost 6 of 7 in SEC play. They were not supposed to be much of anything this year, and here they are beating some of the best teams in the conference.
Yeah, and it's like you said, they have shown us a bunch of just different versions of themselves. Obviously, we saw 2 of the best this week. Earlier this season, they had a 2-point loss to Nichols, who you might not know their mascot is the Colonels. Nice. And then they barely beat Southeastern Louisiana by like 7 points. So it's like, hey guys, let's find a middle ground here. So some sort of consistency, right? Because if you got beaten Kentucky and South Carolina in 1 week in your bag,
right?
Like let's find a way to stay there,
right?
Yeah.
So we also saw Tyrell Ward's game-winning shot there against Kentucky. Angel Reese was there amongst the fans storming the court.
Yes.
It was pretty cool to watch. Now, the LSU men haven't exactly, to our point, have had the same success as the LSU women, the reigning national champs on the women's side. Tyrell Ward, you see Angel right there jumping on him. Tyrell said after the game, I didn't even know she was there.
Right. I mean, that's so awesome. And also, did she get bumped right there by that guy? We need to figure out who that is, bro, because we can't have that. I know.
Just pushed her out of the way.
Right. I know court storming is a dangerous game.
Hot topic right now.
But we got to make sure that Angel Reese is good.
I think she's pretty good.
Yeah, she's great.
She's pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Washington State. We got to talk about what's going on in Pullman right now, Lyles, because this was a team that was picked to finish 10th in the Pac-12 preseason poll. And the Cougars catching Zona sleeping on Thursday night, late into the evening. I don't know if a lot of people watched this game, but many woke up on Friday and was like, huh? What happened?
Unreal. And, I tell you what, like with the Pac-12 going out, they went out strong in football. They're going out strong in men's basketball, and they're going out strong in women's basketball. I saw this note this morning, that win, it's the first time they have finished a day as the outright leader in the Pac-12 multiple games into the conference season since December 21st, 1986.
Yeah. There you go. Sound effects there.
Look at that.
Thank you, Metzger. They haven't won a conference title since 1941. Washington State hasn't. They haven't been to the NCAA tournament since 2008. Tony Bennett was on the sidelines coaching this Washington State team that time period when they were really good. It's a great story and a great cap to an end of a great basketball conference historically when you think about it, right? So it's a great story to end our segment as well. In the meantime, we'll send it back up to Storrs where Christine Williamson is standing by with College Game Day's very own Jay Bill.
It's now time for On the Road, presented by Best Western. You guys already know where we are. We're in Storrs, Connecticut, where it is absolutely lit. The fans have come out in a major way this morning, and I'm here with Jay Bilas. Jay, you were here the very first game day here in Storrs, Connecticut. Now, I want to ask you exactly what you remember, but I do want to point out that Jay did have hair during that time. So when you see that clip, it looks a little different, just slightly different. Yeah.
It took a lot longer to get ready in the morning. But what I remember from 20 years ago was, one, UConn was one of the premier, if not the premier programs in the country. And there was a horrible snowstorm that Saturday. So outside it was awful, and inside it was awesome. It was a fantastic setting to start game day, and it's a fantastic setting to be back 20 years later.
Right, for sure. Obviously, UConn, you mentioned that they are a premier program then. They're a premier program now as well, trying to get another national championship. What has impressed you the most about this UConn team this season?
Well, they have everything. All their pieces fit together. They're every bit as good, I think, as last year's national championship team. And they lost so much from last year, you wouldn't expect that to be the case. And in fact, I think this year's team, relative to the field, is probably a little bit ahead of where last year's team was. You know, if you remember, last year's UConn team that won the national championship, the first month and a half of the season, I think all of us thought they're the best team. And then UConn lost 6 of 8 to start their Big East season.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, they wound up losing to Marquette in the Big East semifinals. But in the tournament, they were by far the best team. And it's not how you do in January that matters, it's how you do in March. And this team is trending to do equally as well in March. Look, our system is not set up for the best team to win every time, to win the championship. It's probably the worst way you can select a champion. But if you were putting money on a team now, you'd take UConn.
Okay, so I do want to mention one thing, because they obviously did just have a loss on the road against Creighton. That's 21 straight away losses against ranked teams. So what does UConn need to do to bounce back tonight against Nova?
I think it'll all start on the defensive end for UConn, how they guard the actions that Villanova has. But UConn is such a beautiful offensive team. They didn't play as well at Creighton, but all the things they run, the cutting, the movement, all their cuts are to the ball and to the basket. They're double cuts, exit cuts. It's just multiple actions. So sooner or later, the defense makes a mistake, and UConn takes advantage of it. But their depth and the way they play together, they don't take a hit when they go to the bench.
Yeah.
And at times they're elevated. It's a fantastic basketball team that I think has a chance to get better as we get to the end of the year. Now, other teams can do that too.
Right.
And just because you're on that trajectory doesn't guarantee anything. But I think staying healthy and with a fresh mind and fresh legs as they get to the end of the season, I can't imagine you'd want to be anybody other than UConn.
We had a very interesting conversation yesterday in our production meeting, just talking about whether or not this team can go back-to-back. You talked about it a little bit, but what do they have to do in order to get another championship this season?
You know, I think a lot of it has to do, it sounds silly, but stay together. The loss to Creighton, you know, people like us are saying, well, what's wrong?
Right.
Lose a game. That's all in the rearview mirror. You know, I think UConn and Danny Hurley does a really good job of they assess what happened and they look at it and say, here's how we can get better, and then they flush it and move on.
Yeah.
Because the championship's ahead of them.
Right.
Whatever happened, you know, last week, last month, doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
They've already assessed it and they move on. Because every goal that they have is still in front of them.
Yeah, for sure. You see it in the Raptors there. They're hoping that says 2024 national championships at the end of this season. It's great here to be in Storrs, right?
It's always great to be in Storrs, as long as you have ice cream.
We'll talk about that later. That was On the Road, presented by Best Western.
A lot of talk about ice cream on this show. Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
Whatever's in front of me, honestly.
Really?
You know, the ice cream's like pizza. It's hard to mess up. And if it's in front of me, I'm going to eat it, yeah.
Okay. I like chocolate chip cookie dough.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right.
Signature.
All right, so with 3 weeks left to go in the regular season before Selection Sunday begins, we have a lot of teams right now that are just hunting wins. Yep. They need wins to make it into the field, and we will reference some of these teams here, starting with Duke, Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, this is maybe the biggest game in Steve Forbes' tenure at Wake Forest, having Duke come into town. Right now, Joe Lunardi has Wake Forest as the first team out of the field. This is a massive opportunity today.
Huge. And if you're Duke, you got to take them seriously. They're undefeated at home. And in ACC play, this team has been completely different, even just regularly, because this is a team, when they're at home, they shoot 50% from the field. When they're away, they shoot 42%. But in ACC play, just let's say from the three-point line, when they're on the road, they shoot 28.7%. When they're at home, that number goes up to 46.4%. Like, this is a different basketball team. Hey, you know, there really is something about sleeping in your own bed, damn it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that truly works. Like, Wake Forest basketball, really living that out. I think if you're Duke, again, you got to come with it. Obviously, they still got another tough one in front of them in North Carolina, but can't sleep on the Demon Deacons, man.
No doubt. And they lost the first matchup. Wake Forest did up at Duke by 8 points. It was a close game. I got to imagine things are going to be a little bit closer here this evening. Next one, Santa Clara at Gonzaga. This has been a fascinating story to follow all year long out in the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga is in danger of missing the NCAA tournament for the very first time since 1998. I mean, that is a very long time that Gonzaga has been a every year participant in the tournament, and they may not make it.
No, and I don't feel very confident in them. I mean, obviously, like you see here, they're on a 5-game win streak. They're averaging almost 86 points per game. But it hasn't been there for them, man. And you know, obviously we talked about earlier this season, it just felt like they've missed their window.
Yeah.
Obviously there's still time for them. A win would be huge for them. Monumental. They have to have it. It's just, it's not the same feel.
It doesn't
really
feel
not
like the same Gonzaga. I completely agree with you. They lost to Santa Clara earlier this year, and that was kind of where people were like, okay, they're starting to lose games in conference play. That's something they never do. They're 1-5 in quad one, and they're clinging on to that Kentucky win.
Yeah.
And we've seen what Kentucky has been. So if you're holding on to that Kentucky win, a team in Kentucky that has fluctuated so much this year, I think they have to win the West Coast Conference tournament to get the auto bid. I don't think Joe Lunardi right now has the Zags as one of the last teams in the field. I think they need to win and be the auto bid. And
you know the thing that sort of keeps, like, for lack of a better word, haunting me about this is we watched them go, like we talked about, it's been, since 1998 since they've made the we watched them go from, like, okay, this is an adorable mid-major to, like, this is one of the best teams year to year in college basketball. And now we're back at this point where we're like, are they going to make the tournament? I hope they pick it up. Because genuinely, like, they have been year in and year out one of the great stories in college basketball.
Quickly here on this last one, North Carolina and Virginia. First off, the ACC tournament is going to be like Bubble Central watch, because I think it could make or break some team seasons. But Virginia, one of the last 4 buys right now, according to Joey Brackets. Myron Metcalf wrote a really interesting piece coming up into this weekend, and he said that Virginia is basically like the opposite of Kentucky. Which I hadn't really thought about, but like their offense, Virginia's is like hard to watch. Like Kentucky's defense is hard to watch.
100%. And you know, like it's not fun to watch, not the most exciting, but you got to admit, like, it's efficient and it works with whoever is on your roster. And this year's team, to me, really shows why Tony Bennett has done this for so long, is because those years when you do get those guys that are going to go to the league, it pays off and you get that national championship. But in years like this year, it's going to keep you in NCAA tournament contention.
We are following the YouTube chat. 67% saying that UConn should indeed be considered amongst the Blue Bloods.
Look at y'all. So good.
We got a smart audience here, Lyles.
Oh, man, I was concerned because, buddy, I don't think this is a conversation at all.
No, I don't think so. But they do need to take care of business today.
They do.
Against a Villanova team who has been really, really good this entire season. That will do it for us here inside Studio E. We will send it over to College Game Day, which is just about 40 miles away from us inside Gampel Pavilion. For Harry Lyles Jr., I'm Sam Ravech and Christine Williamson. Thank you so much for watching Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. Enjoy the wonderful day of college basketball.
Get some ice cream with reviewing.
Why not?